Welcome to the Daily Closing. This is episode number
Yes.
10.
Boom.
Man, finally went double digits.
It's a big deal.
Right, it's a big deal. It's a big deal. Thank you for being part of the journey. Thank you for being part of this conversation. We want to make sure that we bring as much value from different perspectives. By the way, common perspective, just thinking along the lines of some of the things that you're concerned about, and we want to process at a level that is comprehensible for us, including the accent that is part of the process on every single one of these conversations. Lorena, good to see you. Alexi, great having you here.
Good to see you too.
Appreciate it.
We have a few things to cover here today, but what's going on out there? Anything that is grabbing your attention?
For me, yes. Actually, a couple days ago, DeSantis,
Easy with my boy.
officially, officially when he oversaw the whole, he basically took down the tax breaks and structure that Disney had for over 50 years.
Got it.
And this was over, which is crazy. Some woke employees in California were upset over the Florida Don't Say Gay bill, which is, by the way, not called the Don't Say Gay bill. It's called the Parental Rights Bill.
Yeah.
And it has nothing to do, I would have a problem if the actual bill said, don't say gay anywhere near it. It doesn't imply, it doesn't talk about that. It just protects parental rights, which I agree with. But anyway, woke employees in California had nothing to do with Florida. Were pressuring Disney over here. Disney, under not Bob Iger, which makes sense,
Correct.
came in, took on the pressure, gave a push to DeSantis, and DeSantis says, you know what, that's what you believe in, this is what I believe in. Now we're going to give you the same rules that SeaWorld, Universal Studios, and all of those guys play with, because Disney had special rights for over 50 years.
It's crazy.
So is this good or bad?
I like it because it evens the playing field, right? And so it's
But
like,
should it be even?
huh?
Should it be even?
Why not?
Well, if Disney's bringing in more money, employing more people, shouldn't they get better privileges than someone who's
If
not?
they're bringing more value.
Yeah.
I agree.
Yeah. I don't know if they are. I'm just saying if.
Right. Well, it gives right for competition, you know. So for me, here's the way that I look at it. We talked about crony capitalism, and so the moment when government is giving special rights to, and it's not giving special rights to everybody that's bringing value, then maybe it's something. But I like this. I think we'll see what happens. But at the end of the day, I like the fact that it has the
What if
opportunity
Disney picks up and leaves and go to like
You know what?
Texas?
That's a possibility, but picking up and leaving all of that infrastructure is going to take a
That's
lot.
true, that's
Just
true.
so you know.
That's true.
That would be millions and billions and billions of dollars
But
being
Texas
left on the
wouldn't mind.
table.
They'll
100%
help
they
them.
wouldn't. Maybe
They'll
they'll have Disney Texas come up.
Well, I mean, in addition to the fact that you have 80 to 100 million people coming through the gates of Disney, and obviously a lot has to do with the location, the size of the facility.
Yeah.
So to try to duplicate that, especially when you think about the cost of building this is, and many people don't even know that Disney was supposed to be by Daytona. That was the original location, except for the fact that at some point
That would
Wow.
be crazy.
people just think
Daytona
about that
would've
for a
been
second.
Miami.
Literally, by the way,
Yeah.
just think about that for a second,
That's
right?
crazy.
And just that at some point they realized that.
Are you like a Florida historian?
People,
Is that what it is?
I love history in general. I know things that I don't even know why I know them, but I know them, right? So I love history. Listen, to me, I was describing to somebody. To me, history is like watching a movie, right? Like because I'm a very visual guy, so I can see that playing out. But what happens is they started to buy land in Daytona, and then somebody realized that it was Disney. So prices went through the roof in like 2 seconds,
Yeah.
right? And so they say quietly, we're gonna go to somewhere, and they started to buy a little bit at a time, and they ended up with 645 for 47 acres of land.
Yeah, it's insane.
And they have only built, I don't know, like 6.5 to 6.9 acres of land at this moment. Like there's actually physical.
Yeah, so we got a lot
Infrastructure
more
in there.
space.
So we got
Yeah.
so how do you walk away from
That size of an
something that
investment,
size of a property, and then the revenue that has been generated, the fact that it's connected to a very specific location, but
By the way, there still has some level of special rights. Don't get me wrong, but at least there was a few things where it's like, look, you're not going to be operating on a bunch of things. You have to pay taxes. You have to do this. So, you know.
What I think is really happening here, right? Because I agree with you in the sense that if you bring in that much money, I'm 100% pro capitalism.
Yeah.
Right? If we have multiple parks and there is one park that's actually doing more than anybody else, maybe you're entitled to just a little something more,
Yeah.
right? And I'm not saying create a disadvantage for anybody else, but in proportion to what you're doing and making a
Right.
contribution. So I don't see anything negative with that. I still see it as part of fair competition. But here's the thing, though, is it had nothing to do with business.
Just-
Had everything to do with a social agenda
Yeah.
that most people in general found it to be tasteless. You know what I mean? And again, not even a truthful argument. Just think about the nickname that was
Yeah.
assigned to, the don't
bill,
say gay,
yeah.
but like I don't like people. And by the way, that's what everybody's getting, right? You're just picking up on this stuff.
There's billboards that say all over
Correct.
Florida that say it's okay to say.
It's okay to say gay. It's okay to say whatever you want to
Yeah,
say. You know what I
you
mean?
can
In this
say whatever
place,
you
yeah,
want.
somebody can beat you up for it, but that's a whole. You know what I
true.
mean? It's okay to say, hey,
Yeah.
you're looking a little black to me.
Yeah.
Right? Like, it's okay to say certain things, but just like when you put something out there, you got to be ready to take back whatever is going to come back. But to me, the issue is what you stated. This is actually something that didn't really get started in the state of Florida. This is something that it's another state
Some other
that has a
dude in
different
California,
philosophy
yeah.
about many things, right? And it got extended to the state of Florida, right? We have a different governor here to say, we're not going to play that game. You're not going to tell us what is okay to say, okay to think. Okay. And again, it was more about protecting parental rights, right? And that's something that right now is by the way, top of the issue, top of the conversation for future elections coming up. You already had a few elections going in a different direction precisely because somebody managed to get parents to the point of saying,
Angry, yeah.
that's like crazy. Like certain things are just becoming a little tasteless. So I love the fact that you also mentioned that this is something that have nothing to do with Bob Iger,
Yeah.
The previous.
We read the book from that guy.
Yeah,
That guy
you know what I mean?
is-
I think that he's a
good
good
CEO.
business person, a good CEO, and he has been good to Disney. So,
Yeah,
so he's a
100%.
guy that if I'm a Disney employee right now, I will be feeling very good that he's back as a CEO.
Well, there's some people that
didn't-
are
we
upset
didn't-
about the 4-day work week. and
Well,
stuff
you know,
like that.
you didn't get a chance to hear that much from the previous CEO, but apparently he again stepped out of the business side of it way too much, and went into
Politics,
issues that
yeah.
really, you know what I mean. You can't be playing politics with such a large corporation, and maybe sometimes we take for granted. You have a little bit of power, you want to execute on that power,
Yeah.
and then somebody
Lights, fires.
has to remind you and say, you know what, like that's not. So a lot of. I think the good news is that at some point they were saying the cost was going to be passed on to the state of Florida. There's no cost that will be passing on to the state of Florida. If anything, there is some potential additional
Income,
benefits
yeah.
that they will be able to collect. Listen, mixed emotions about this whole situation in the sense that when you look at the business environment right now, right, and how they catering to either certain groups or certain language right now, and it's not a language that is in the best interest. And then you wonder, right? Because this, I'm not talking about small companies. You're talking about very large companies.
Yeah.
Disney is not a small company.
Yeah, not at all.
So for them to get involved with certain issues that, again, it's not only is not good for business, the majority of the country actually struggles with certain issues. You got to be very, very careful because there's a price to pay business.
Well, I feel like that's a part of Disney's agenda, so to speak. They are like, since I would say they became what we know them to be, they've had a plan to make people think or act a certain way. Whether that's through their movies, through what they promote. So I feel like they're always somehow involved in politics in a way, even though they're a corporation. They definitely are trying to push you to think a certain way.
You think that they pushing or they're
Yeah.
being consistently pushing intentionally?
Yes,
looking
100%.
into-
Yeah, I would say since maybe like the last 2-3 years, like they've made it their business to where every Disney movie that's come out, they like on purpose want to show you that there's some type of either gay or lesbians in the movie that have like a role on purpose where I'm going to highlight it even when it's not necessary to highlight it. Where before, let's say you was watching a movie, and I'm talking about cartoons, I'm not talking about like a Marvel movie. It could be a cartoon where it's like, okay, this is a person, we don't know what their sexual orientation is or what they do, but now it's like on purpose, I want to highlight that this girl, is a lesbian in the movie. And so I think that's something that they're doing intentionally because they want that to be, something that they're showing you, hey, this is how we think about it, and everybody else, if you're watching our movies, you're supporting what it is that we, so I think it's intentional, 100%. It's not like by mistake.
By the way, growing up gay, well, just kidding. I mean,
You gay? Oh
what?
my
Are you
God.
serious?
What?
I said the word. Just so you know. No. Actually, I gotta take that.
Who knew?
I take that, but everybody around me knew I was gay before I was gay. Just so you know, before it came out.
Usually that's the way it
It's like I'm like, wow, like, I missed a whole lot of stuff.
I had a friend that said to me, it's like, I have something to tell you.
Oh, honey.
And it's probably going to surprise you. I was like, I think it's going to be a surprise to you, but I don't know that anybody's going to be. Listen.
So for me, here's the way that I look at it. Is it coming up and actually being in the closet and like there was not a whole lot of in TV any gay lesbian representation. So I would be grateful when you'd be like, okay, so wow, that's cool that it's here and there. Now every single show, regardless of Disney or not, by the way,
that's true.
You're talking about every single show. That's it, and it's very. You're right. It highlights it a little bit more than usual. It's like, why are you not highlighting every relationship in general? If that's the case, so I mean, for me, I'm grateful that it happened, but I think me personally, I still think it's a little bit too much. So, but
Well, you see it progressing, though. You know what I mean? From if you go back to movies like Pinocchio, you know what I mean, which Peterson spent multiple lectures just about Pinocchio. You know what I mean? To the fact that today he actually hates Frozen. Because again, the difference of the message, right? But and my question was,
let it go.
My question was, what is Jordan Peterson doing watching Disney movies?
No,
what are
it's
you
big
doing,
though.
Peter?
There's a lot of lessons. Are you freaking kidding me? Alice in Wonderland? Like, whoa.
Even beyond the lesson, it's just so big. You have to pay attention.
I'm gonna tell you why, because you know that the audience is gonna be watching this. It's not a small group. It's gonna be a large group of people, and so again, what's gonna be the impact, right? That it's going to have. So definitely progressing. You know what I mean? You see it going in a different direction. There's definitely a narrative that's being supportive.
Yes.
You're talking about, by the way, even superhero movies. You know what I mean? It's like, and it's not just a question of sexual orientation, but even race, religion, all these crazy things. Superman is not American anymore. It's like he's
Captain America.
Captain American. You know what I mean? Wants to become a globalist. It's like stupid stuff. You know what I mean? That you go like, how are we moving in that direction? What happened to common sense? You know what I mean? Somebody was complaining the other day that why do we call Black Panther in the second movie? They should have called it the Mexican Indian guy, because there was 80% of the Mexican guys showed, like literally, like there was somebody really upset about, look, like 20% was Black Panther stuff, and then the other 80 was like Mexican movie.
That's funny.
And
are you serious?
I'm dead serious. The fact that somebody actually even paid that much attention to it. So how about we go back to the days where a superhero was just a superhero.
Yeah,
we don't have to say that he's a straight, gay, black,
Disney
white.
won't allow it.
And that is the problem, right? Who wants to create this so-called label that by the time it's filtered down to you, and you're gonna have a reaction about it. By the way, if you're for it, you're like, oh, we have a black superhero. We have a gay Superman. It's a little confused.
Sure,
is that like Spider-Man? Come on, Spider-Man's gotta be with a who wears a tie like that?
That's funny.
So how do we process that? It's not easy. But the thing is, for me, it's not even. I'm from a business perspective. I'm actually conflicted about the state getting involved. I'm a little more along your side on this one, because I don't like anything that's gonna give them a reason or is gonna give them power.
To go.
Right? Yeah. This whole is like we're gonna slap you on a this. This is a little uncomfortable, to be quite honest with you. But at the same time, I do understand the reason why, the argument, right? Because it had nothing to do with business. As a matter of fact, if business would have been just business as usual, and Disney would have said, hey, state of Florida, we absolutely want a little more. Like at some point, they have their own currency. At some point, they have their own, like literally, when you're talking about, you know what I mean? And so,
You kidding me? I bought
I
so many
understand
things
the
with Disney dollars. I used to work at the hotel.
wow,
And
we
they would
really
give
went
us-
there.
You're absolutely right. I just
We
went
went-
back
you just
to.
went-
Sorry, okay. I'm 17 and working at Disney like right now, just so you
Good
know.
kid.
But I bought so many things.
Disney changing your life in so many different ways.
You have no idea. Yeah. So I'm.
Yeah.
What I hope for is that because here's something that was a lot more significant that took place though, is actually people dropping a lot of the like for example Disney Plus, a lot of the memberships
Yeah.
would drop. Like
Yeah.
they had a revenue drop that was significant.
Yeah.
They had a lot of less people. Then again, you couldn't tell because coming back from COVID, everybody was just desperate to go to any park. You know what I mean? So. In the state of Florida, by the way, right now, expanding aggressively is Universal.
Yep.
Right? I mean, you're seeing a
can
lot
see
of
it. It's
construction
like,
even very close to
Yep.
us. There's multiple parks
Yep.
going on at the same time. They don't have,
TDC.
funny enough, they don't have the same accumulation. They didn't get to do what Disney was able to do because now everybody was onto it. You know what I mean? It's
You
like-
see on Sand Lake, oh man, what's that? The parking garage
Yeah.
that has Disney on it. It's like right across Universal. Have you seen it? Have you noticed it?
No, I've
It's right by
noticed
the
it.
big McDonald's. It's actually really interesting to see. I'm like, Disney's over here, like being like, shh, this is
Yep.
our. By the way,
It's-
I'm pro competition. I love that
No,
stuff. just so
1,000%.
you know,
It's
you
good
know?
for
So
people. It's good
like-
for prices. But by the way, when it comes to prices, right now it's very difficult for a lot of people to just come on vacation here. But
People save their
but-
lifetime.
But the mouse is gonna be okay. He's
Yeah,
not
that's
losing
true.
Yeah.
weight.
Nope.
So let's move on because
fine.
Disney now, Disney 1,000 years from now
still gonna-
is
it's
they
gonna be
still gonna be
huge.
doing.
They're gonna replace the government.
Correct.
No.
That, more than
That's
likely
it.
they're gonna.
So, you know.
That's gonna. It's gonna be the United States of Disney.
Correct, correct.
Of Mickey,
I
whatever
believe
it's gonna call.
Yeah.
Guys, a couple of things, maybe a little more serious, is I don't know if you're familiar with what's going on out of the city of Chicago. The
Check-down.
mayor was officially recalled. By the way, it's not only a recall, it's like she's not even able to participate on the special election because that her approval rate was so low that the two people that are going to come in to run for her position, she's not one of them. That's how bad when you get
She
recall.
lost her runoff.
Yeah. When you get recall and you don't even get the chance
Yeah.
to try to
Yeah.
participate on the whole
We're
thing.
gonna
That's
keep
how
you
bad
on
it
the
was.
bench.
We're not gonna fire you, but you must resign.
Yeah. What triggered
No,
that?
she was fired.
Yeah.
Yeah.
As you know, the crime rate in Chicago, just like, listen, again, heavily populated areas, you
Yeah.
can go, right now, Houston is getting a bad rap in terms of, lack of cleanliness, which is like a weird statement to assume.
Wow.
Also crime rates, New York was always New York, you know what I mean? The crime was always, like, this heavily populated, LA, Chicago was always, you know what I mean? Again, when you go into the history of Chicago, you could go back to the days of Al Capone, you know what I mean? This has been a place where always
Yeah.
a lot of
Big
crime.
corruption, big.
But
yeah.
right now, though, we're talking about it's 164% about average. The whole conversation
Well,
about
that's not a leader's bulletin.
make
You
a-
wanna
that's
read
the-
it.
yeah, exactly.
Wow, that's sucks.
And the thing is that the whole defund the police is finally showing up in certain places.
Yep.
This is definitely one of them.
Yeah.
If I'm a police officer though, and I'm working in these areas, I'm just staying out of trouble.
I'm petrified.
I'm trying
Yeah.
to listen. I'm walking out of my house. I want to make it back home.
Yeah.
And whatever is going on here, if you don't have the support of the actual government structure, if the mayor of the city is not supporting you, if the governor is not supporting you, then what are you doing? You're gonna go put your life at risk when so many negative things said. But where do you think this whole thing is gonna go? Are we seeing the first of many potential recalls taking place here?
I don't know what it's gonna trickle down to for other places, but I think this is actually nothing new for Chicago. I think this is something they're highlighting it more now, but Chicago's been leading in crime and murders for a while.
For a long time.
Probably, I don't know, probably like at least 15, 20 years.
Even Ron Emanuel, there was prior.
Yeah, so I think this is an ongoing thing that we're highlighting now, for different reasons, but I don't think
it's greater
anything
though.
new.
It's always been
that's
bad,
the thing,
but this is
it
like it
increased
really went
drastically,
from bad to worse. There's no.
What I'm saying is they've still been number one in the.
They just got, let's go separation.
Yeah, there you go.
Wow, that's really
So
jacked up.
everything is
Okay.
messed up, yeah.
Oh,
But everything
God.
is getting bigger, as the as we move forward into the future. But like I said, I don't think it's something that is anything special. Even it's messed up to say that, but I don't think it's special that
It's
they've been going
extremely
through.
sad,
It is.
But by the
they've been
way,
going through
I
this.
mean, I'm gonna tell you why. To me, is even the number is even bigger than it appears to be. This is one of those places that is actually losing people, right? So usually,
businesses.
Usually, believe it or not, usually when that happens, right? You're losing businesses and you're losing people. So percentage wise, everything is supposed to decline. Revenue. Yeah, I mean everything, including crime. Because again, if
There's
you have
less
less
people,
people, so
yeah.
the fact that you're actually losing people, you have less people,
And there's more
and your
crime.
crime rate is going higher, right?
Yeah.
That's a double whammy,
Yeah, that's true.
right? And so, as much as we want to, almost even joke around about the whole situation, at the end of the day, there's people dying.
No, 100%.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You have
Yeah.
people that you have a lot of, like, I think about the young people, man,
It's,
growing up over there. You said something about, that a while ago we were having that conversation about growing up into that environment. That's all I know, that's all I see.
Yeah.
For you, that's normal.
Mm-hmm.
How do you have a conversation about American dream, capitalism, the good things about the United States?
That's
You go
true.
like, what good things about the United
Just
States?
worried about
Yeah.
being alive.
Yeah, true.
So here's what comes to my mind. So she is the first person to lose the runoff in a race like this since 1983 in
Wow,
Chicago.
crazy.
Okay, which is unable to run in like her own party, by the way. So I wonder, it's like, are people paying attention more and saying, wow, this is what's going to happen, or they're going to go back and elect somebody that is very similar, making the same promises and just hoping to have a different result, because so that's one. And the second thing is that she was very out there saying that the reason that she lost, even though she won the previous times by an overwhelming majority, like I'm talking about, she won like, I think it was like 73% of the votes or something like that. She is right now attributing it to race, gender, and sexual orientation.
Yeah.
Because so
Well,
so what
I
do you
mean,
think about that?
So Jordan Peterson was saying that when you suppress something or you're trying to push something as a narrative that is either so out of the box or you're creating a condition that is literally not normal, right? Whatever you're trying to suppress, whatever you're trying to put, it comes back with a vengeance, right? And what has happened is that the conversation against traditional values, against family, against even capitalism, again, the argument even against the United States, the internal argument, and all those things and against the police, and against order, against law and
Yes, she
order,
was
against
very against the police, by the way. She was one of the
about
defund the police.
1,000%. This is somebody that was looking for additional
Ran on
ways
that
to
agenda, yeah.
1,000%. And so what are you seeing happening right now is you're seeing even the media at this point is not able to hide it anymore. It's like, okay, this was not a good idea.
Yeah.
This is something that we got to be careful with. And by the way, not everybody. You still have some people all the way to the left that still want to push that agenda. And that's not the biggest part of the country, though. Most people are not sold out
They
to
wanna be
an
safe.
idea. They want to be safe. I want
What
my
a concept,
family.
huh?
I want for my husband, for my wife to make it back home. I want for my children to go to school. I want them to come back here. You know what I mean? And Patrick Patrick Bet-David from Valuetainment obviously said, it's like one situation can potentially trigger the opposite. And we were talking about presidential elections, right? Going back to, okay, so Bush elected in many ways is responsible for the election of somebody like Barack Obama.
Yeah, gay person.
Right?
Yeah.
People were, and the opposite, like, we had enough of this guy. We want to get out of this place. Somebody came in and spoke about a different language, but then Barack Obama ended up giving birth to
Trump.
Donald Trump. Donald Trump ended up giving birth to,
Sleepy Joe.
yeah, right? And so the problem is, what are we talking about? We're talking about this opposite positions that become so strong that what we have right now is people pushing back and forth opposed to
Figuring out
finding
the
common sense. You know what I mean? Like, but there's got to be. Listen, not everybody's gonna be happy, right?
Yeah.
You know the many situations where you go into a negotiating table, and what you hope for is for enough people to be happy to a certain level, knowing that somebody's gonna be truly unhappy is always a possibility. But when everybody's walking away unhappy about the fact that my agenda is not, that will never allow any kind of common sense conversation to take place. So that I think that's where we got to be careful, because that's where we are. In addition to that, though, if we take that and we take it to a whole different level, which is what's going on with the Department of Justice, DOJ, right now. I mean, Congress is grueling. The Secretary of the Department of Justice. I mean, the Director of the Department of Justice, for targeting Catholics, for targeting conservatives, for targeting. Again, a lot of these ideas that it appears to be there is no longer by accident. They are specifically going to. So that's is weaponizing, is an extension, is an arm of a political party. So you got to be careful what you say, because next thing you know, somebody's going to be knocking on your door. You got to be careful about what your position happens to be. And the people that are coming to check on you, nobody's checking on them.
Yep.
Like they can lock you up. And for these guys to get to the point, at best right now, only if they incriminate on a wrong answer in front of Congress. It's not like Congress is going to show up with the SWAT team and is going to take somebody from the FBI or somebody else. Right? You're literally going to have to go through a process which we call due diligence. Then most of us, once you target it by FBI, DOJ, you're done. Somebody's going to pick you up and you're going to have an Andrew Tate moment.
That's
crazy. But go ahead.
No, I'll say that's crazy.
Yeah.
It reminds me of so in Jamaica, about like 30, 40 years ago, there was a big thing going on where there was like pretty much two different parties, right? But those parties had gangs that was attached to that party, to where if they find out that you're supporting this group, like this gangsters coming, they're not playing.
Oh, wow.
But once again, they're supported by the government to where it was almost not, it wasn't legal, but it was accepted. So it almost sounds very similar to that, which is not good.
So in my country is corruption, right? The whole thing about corruption. You're somebody's gonna come to you and they're gonna offer you a bag of money. And you have two choices. You take the money or you're going to take a bullet. Right? So you have to take the money.
Yes,
or you got to disappear. Right? Or you got to literally, by the way, I have literally family that quit things that were connected in the political side of it just because it was heading into that direction. The next person that took that position was literally shot in the middle of the street, and so you know what I mean. So when the level of corruption that you're dealing with is so out of control, I mean, are we at that point? Maybe not so openly, but
to a certain
pretty
extent.
scary. You know what I mean?
Could be going that direction.
That you actually be targeted, because we can be heading in that direction. So one of the things that I love about again, the balance of powers that we're supposed to have. Is that we do need to have checks and balances.
I agree.
You know what I mean?
So even with that whole defund the police idea, I think it's stupid. But at the same time, I think that the police do need policing. So if anything, it should be
100%.
You spend more money, not less money. Like I don't think that the answer is to the problem is what most people think it is. But there does need to be an answer. So same thing. I think that, like you said, we need checks and balances. You can't let one entity run wild and there's no one to.
I don't think anybody should be entitled to abuse power. You know what I mean?
Correct.
And I think that maybe that was the right way of presenting it. Maybe that was the right narrative. Guys, listen, we have too many incidents, right? This is we can't continue to go that route. It's very difficult to support certain situations just because, and so on and so forth. You know what I mean? And I think that efforts have been made, and by the way, there's a lot of great people. I mean, I know of phenomenal police officers, especially out of New York. And I also met some of them. They were, questionable guys. You know what I mean? That just the uniform alone, the fact that you carry a weapon. You know what I mean? Like driving against traffic for no reason. Or doing, by the way, I'm with one of my friends. He's a police officer. We got on the car. And he's going. I'm like, what are you doing? It's like, oh, don't worry about it.
I got the badge.
Nobody's gonna stop us. That's not good.
But that doesn't. Sorry to cut you. But that doesn't mean something is wrong with
every police.
Correct.
Yeah.
There's something wrong with that individual.
That guy was let go.
He's gotta go get
By the way,
fired.
let's see.
Fire the bottom, and like pay more to the people that are doing the best.
He was
and just fire the ones that are doing a shitty job. Here's my concern: if our own government, the FBI, the police, whoever are the people that are supposed to be keeping us safe and to have checks and balances, if those are the guys that are prosecuting somebody because of an ideology, that can become very, very dangerous. I mean, I can have stories after stories of, in Venezuela, if you voted against a certain, if you voted for a referendum and you voted no, your ID was marked with an X. Like, seriously. And so here's what that meant. You ready?
Yeah.
When you went to apply for a loan, for a business loan or something like that, and you had that, you were denied. Like literally. Wow. Like it was a lot of different things. So our own government was literally killing the business owners, hence as to why there's a lot of people doing business here. But that becomes a problem if your government and like whoever armed forces and stuff like that are literally penalizing the citizens because of an ideology, it can turn very ugly. So if that's what's happening, that's really scary.
Well, and I think we need to, in all fairness, we also need to establish a difference between, the difference between police powers and the powers of the power of the FBI. I mean, the FBI. We're talking about two different animals here.
I'm just saying. Yeah.
Because the police, again, the whole conversation about defunding the police and all those things, which goes back to, we're talking about Chicago. I mean, it's completely different than you having an entity that is almost untouchable to actually target a specific group. I mean, we saw the biggest example that we have is everything that was connected to Donald Trump. If you can do that to a president, a sitting president, we're not talking about a former president or a candidate to become a president. They were already, moving in that direction. But if you can push him around as a sitting president, then where are the limits? So I do hope to see some level of changes, just like you're saying. Or I mean, listen, there's got to be some reform. Somebody's got to police the police. Somebody's got to police the FBI. Somebody's got to police every level of government. That's the reason what makes our government very special is that we're supposed to have checks and balances every step of the way. And I think
that's why I love the opportunity to vote. Because you have an opportunity to be like this lady, Lori Lightfoot. Yeah. You know what? We thought you were going to be awesome. We voted for you heavily. And now there's a recall and you're unable to run. You're bench. Done. You sucked. Right. So,
by the way, staying a little bit with the FBI. So now, officially reports, and they also just voted to declassify everything that was connected to COVID-19. Congress just
I feel like I already knew.
We said. But I tell you what I already knew. Something that you mark my word for it. It's going to be a lot of people getting arrested soon. Yeah. There's going to be a lot of people that should be incarcerated. Yep. There's a lot of people that should be sued. There's a lot of people that should be stripped of anything, medical like any resemblance, medical license. There's a lot of people because right now what the FBI director said is the COVID-19, the pandemic, more than likely originated from the Chinese lab, the Wuhan area that everybody almost from day one and. By the way, that's what Donald Trump said from They keep saying, why do you keep calling it
The
the
China
Chinese
virus.
virus? The China virus. He said, because it came from China.
Hmm.
And the guy, some people said, well, that was so irresponsible to say, well,
Not really.
maybe not.
It's
Maybe
true.
he knew something.
And at that point, but here's the funny thing though, at
Yeah.
that point, one of the statements that he makes is, based on everything that we are looking at.
Yeah.
And then everybody else picked up.
Swept up.
Media decided to create a different narrative. Shame on them. Shame on them. That's why they have zero credibility with people. Zero credibility, right?
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, so
this
get
is
ready for
just-
lawsuits. Get ready for
Yeah.
people getting arrested.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it.
Investigating.
I'm totally looking forward to it. Here's the thing. This is yet another conspiracy theory
Yeah.
that eventually became true.
Yeah.
Correct.
So it's like, how many more of those?
And this, again, going back to even the FBI, who now is making the admission, but remember, for a long time, they went along with the narrative of, well, no, not really, we don't know enough.
Yeah.
No, they knew
Correct.
almost
Exactly.
And-
from day one that was the case.
That I feel like,
Yeah.
well, at least me, I feel like I knew that was the case. There was definitely not talking about where it originated. I think the bigger thing that I don't know if it's gonna play out the way that I'm thinking, but everything connected to vaccines or everything connected to what was done after COVID was here. That's still another issue because now there's even them talking about, okay, we know for a fact it wasn't preventing people from getting COVID, or there was different things that they were done connected to the vaccine that I think was causing just as big of a problem, if not a bigger problem, because now all of a sudden you got that X if you didn't
Yep.
if you didn't get the
Yep,
if you
yep.
didn't get the vaccine.
I felt like I was in Minnesota.
Yeah,
Just I went to New York,
Yes.
and I'm like, I didn't have my vax documents,
Yeah,
whether
yeah.
they were real or not.
Yeah.
So you were
Right?
eating outside.
And I was like, literally, I order a glass of wine and French fries. It's my favorite thing to eat. And all of a sudden, the guy's like, "Oh, so do you have your papers?" And I'm like, "Wait." I'm like, "U.S. citizen, sir. Like, what do you mean?"
Correct.
And all of a sudden, like, the guy's like, "I'm sorry. I know that you're already eating, but I'm gonna have to ask you to leave." And so I'm sitting, like, outside
Did you
in the
take it
freezing cold. I'm not. It was like $40 for
like,
wine
I'll
and
take
French
it.
fries, and I'm like, like they didn't even have a anyway. So
Yeah.
yes.
So yeah, so
there's gotta be a lot of
I'm
economy.
concerned about is it gonna extend to all of that whole mess as well?
You know how many businesses
'cause,
closed?
But again, we're going back to
People got hurt.
we're going
Yeah.
back to the same
Died.
issue though. You know what I mean? The fact of the matter is that when you deny these possibilities, you know
Yeah.
what I mean, and when you want to hide it so much, it's very difficult for you to actually come up with a solution that is faithful enough even to the science of the solution, because you're already lying about
It's covering
how
a lie with a lie.
it was actually
It just
generated. So
snowballs, yeah.
what else you putting out there? So to the argument of, hey, listen, the vaccine came out and you saw a lot of numbers dropping in terms of people we don't know if it had anything to do with the vaccine to begin with, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
there's so many other things that you can argue about. But listen, I had family members that got to the point of arguing. They still haven't been able to recover relationship-wise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%.
Because the position
Don't
was
come back.
yeah, no, it's like seriously.
Yeah, yeah,
It's like
yeah.
I literally have like one of my told the other like just like do me a favor, don't come back to my house. And
Yeah.
yeah. and I'm saying, wow, this is so to the point that we got here. So the question is, where is the apology to where is Saint Fauci that was
Hiding.
telling everybody to if that guy doesn't listen, and don't be surprised, give it a
Yeah.
few.
He's got to go to jail. Like that guy.
That guy doesn't
That
need a
guy's got to go to jail. I'm sorry. He caused a lot of harm.
Definitely shouldn't have a license anymore. So how about we stay on China a little bit, being that we decided to go China. So let's keep it a little Chinese, so to see if we don't get taken down from this video. It would be a first. Like imagine video number 10. We went double digits.
Just kidding. We're going to have to do 10 point, what is it, 10.2?
So Colombia, guys, you know, I like to keep an eye on
But I
what's
thought
going
you were
on
saying
on
in China.
international level.
Got it.
I like to keep an eye on what's going on
Yes.
in some of different countries, and Colombia is one of those countries that I'm paying attention to because after the election, I want to see how the economy is going to go. I have a lot of good friends that are already freaking out a little bit. I'm looking at every intervention from their current president. Even the other day, criticizing the president of El Salvador for taking such a tough stand. against the criminals that had been incarcerated, and he's saying, it's it's a concentration camp, and you have so many young people. Some people are just happy to get young people locked up. You know what? Some people are happy to protect the life of other young people.
Yep.
Right? So if what it takes is to lock you up so that you don't kill somebody, I'd rather protect the life that was never meant to be destroyed and killed, and the families that have to survive that. So I don't understand any president out there that would have any inclination to support criminal activities unless you are in that arena of corruption for whatever reason, right? And you want to introduce again a false mercy, false narrative about what it means to be a good country or to have or produce good citizens in that country. So I'm paying attention to Colombia for a number of reasons. But so as you know, China has been buying a lot of land, has been buying a lot of ports, has been buying a lot of energy, and a Chinese state-controlled company ended up buying the refinery of Colombia. And these guys, as a matter of fact, what they ended up buying is something called the compound of the oil company is called Emerald Energy. And is the company that ended up buying is a subsidiary of the China state-owned company. So it's in the residents of the Colombia southern Caqueta province. They actually right now they are they ended up taking hostage. They protest. I mean, the people in the area, they're protesting the conditions of just the road conditions, right? Everything is dominated by that company. Obviously, the Chinese entity couldn't care less about what's going on, even in the road system, which can potentially even affect them business-wise.
Right.
So now you have people saying, we have enough. We have all this activity, all this commercial activity, and things are just even getting worse in terms of the environment, in terms of they're not doing absolutely anything to improve, and that little area doesn't have the financial, politically capability.
Yes.
And they're saying, well, we're going to start protesting. The problem is that this really got out of hand quickly. There's 79 police officers right now that are being held hostages. That's how you know that it went south quickly, right? Just to be able to...
Only in Colombia, man. The police is held hostage.
You're a police officer and you go there
not like
dressed
three.
No. 79. Like when I looked at the number, I'm like, how do you just grab 79 people with...
That's funny.
But also...
79. Is it 79 cops though?
Yeah.
That's next level.
That's 79. I know. But again, we're gonna start seeing a lot of effects of specific, like I said, ports. Always concerned about ports being owned by a foreign entity that, for all intended purposes, is very hostile to anything that is
Coming from
American
this side,
and
yeah.
any part of the continent.
The
You know what I mean?
Americas, yeah.
So what's gonna come through there? What's happening there? Is being controlled? Is being economically dominated?
So wait, so China is doing, from my understanding, is China doing the playbook that you say? Start doing business with countries over here?
Correct.
So before the U.S. did that, China came in and did
Not
that?
only that, the biggest...
And
the
they're
biggest-
screwing up the...
The
Holy
biggest,
bananas.
United
Scary.
States was accused of being an occupier nation because of the Panama Canal. The Panama Canal was under control for 100 years because of the cost of building the canal. They wanted to make sure there were, and they definitely got their investment back, but also
And then some, yeah.
it's a security concern.
Yeah.
Right, so the question was not just can we keep making money, it's like can we keep an eye on this thing the way it's supposed to be. A lot of people are extremely unhappy about President Carter, right, giving it back to Panama.
Yeah.
I don't hear anybody protesting about every single one of the ports. As a matter of fact, I promise you, we're going to go back to with a future video just describing every single one of the land, ports, any of these energies. Look, it's not just here, guys. It's happening in Africa. It's happening in different places. These guys are buying up everything that would allow them to control transportation, energy. I mean, this is not a small game they're playing.
So, because last podcast we was talking about military bases being from the U.S. and people being deployed. So what China's doing, they're not doing anything military related. They're doing it business related.
Correct.
Holy
We're just
cow.
gonna buy it
yeah.
all.
Yeah, that's
We're going to dominate you economically. We're going to control you. We're
Yeah.
going to build your roads.
Bleed
If you
them
don't
out.
pay them, we can.
So here's
take
my
them out.
question.
Yeah.
The fact that the people who are protesting,
Mhm.
they're holding cops hostage. Is this just a way for them to make noise, or is it because they're saying, "Hey, the cops are supporting what China is doing"? So then now it's like, pretty much the government is in a way supporting China in a way that's not beneficial to the people, or what's the dynamic there? Because I'm like, why is it that because of what China's doing, they're like, let me hold these cops hostage? Do you get, or is it the cops have nothing to do?
No,
with
no.
what's going on with China?
As a matter of fact, I appreciate
Yeah.
the question. As a matter of fact, you know what I mean. I think that, they wanna suggest there's a little more to it, right? Remember the whole exchange of government that just took place. This is definitely a black eye, you know what I mean? Because we're talking about energy. We're talking about something that is very big and significant in the country. You're talking about that many people. By the way, one of them was killed. And, there was
Two.
80
There's two
or
people.
two, I think two by now.
yeah.
Right?
There was a cop and a civilian.
And so you have this thing taking place, and so you can see it from two different perspectives. You know what I mean? One of them is the people are not necessarily anti-China per se. That's not what the argument is. The argument is a lot of the destruction or the improvement that was needed, right, is definitely connected to that group of people, to that environment, right, and specifically to that company.
Yeah.
And so what he's saying is that nobody's going to make it better. You managed to make it worse. So we definitely want to do whatever it takes for them to reconsider. Now, is there more to it in terms of, a little bit of a political message that they're going to send? And it's not a good one, by the way. It's definitely not a good one. Because this will lead very easily into civil unrest. Like somebody said, oh, okay, and by the way, did it work? We're going to see how this thing is going to develop.
Right.
But if it works, then guess what happens next?
More.
Yep.
You're just going to get more
Duplication,
and
yeah.
more of that, right? So the fact that it's there, you know what I mean, it's an open type of scenario, type of question. Is very difficult to see how this thing is going to end. If the agenda is just make the roads better, they should be able to fix that quickly. Right, and they should be able to release the police officer. And if they're using that as a leverage, I mean, just to get everybody to go through a process, but if there's more to it, obviously we're gonna find out,
Yeah.
and hopefully it's not gonna become a little worse. But staying with China also right now, guys, this is another funny situation happened. There's a guy, a billionaire investor, who is warning everybody that China's crazy business tactics right now is amounting to, we don't feel like giving you your money back right now. This is a guy that makes, Mark Movius, makes global investments, money all over the place. He actually has personal accounts, with HSBC and Shanghai, and he literally was trying to move his own money around, and we said we're not gonna.
This is this guy saying, "Hey, I'm
He
investing
put capital in China.
China,"
Yes.
and all of a sudden he's saying,
Wants it out.
"Give me my money,"
He's saying not quite.
and
No.
the bank is saying, or the government is saying, or
Well,
both.
The bank is
The bank
gonna-
because of the government.
Correct.
It's
Correct.
saying no.
China right now is going to be either slow to give you back your money or not giving back the money at all. And by the way,
Is that a reflection of their current economical structure? I know that they're imploding.
I
a
think
little
there's a
bit.
couple
They're
of
going
things.
through
You know what I mean, I
crisis.
think as a part of it is economics, and the other one is politics. You know what I mean? They heading into a very specific direction. I think that
Where's this guy from?
he's from here, from the United
US,
States. Yeah, he's a U.S. citizen. He's again, just letting everybody know, all their big investors, heavy investors, saying, "Hey, listen, this just happened to me. Heads up." I know somebody like Ray Dalio has a lot of money invested.
Over there,
You know
yeah.
what I mean? I'm talking about
Very big
probably
money.
probably about $12 billion invested in China. I would be a little concerned if that's, you know what I mean? So what you're seeing progressively
Having a Mary
is,
Poppins comment, like moment, and it's like, I want my
God.
money. I'm just kidding.
so, you know, the fact that is it can, just like that though, you can lose your rights. And I want to circle back to one of the beautiful things about our country, right? When you see about everything that's going on with China, and then you go back to a place like United States, where things that are extremely protected here is property rights and individual rights, right? You the bank cannot just hold your money with no reason whatsoever. They have to have a legal, and maybe in some cases criminal, maybe IRS related. They have to have a reason. They can't just say, we don't feel like giving your money back. And we take that for granted, right? And the so friendly China and all of these other countries, the fact that you don't understand sometimes the rights that we are afforded here, even when the economy is not well here, guys, the reason why a lot of people are still willing to make investments in the United States is
Because
precisely because you are so protected when
Yep.
it comes to your rights. So, so if anybody's up for an investment in China, let me know. I know a few people.
That's funny.
Anyway, guys, any takeaways about anything? Any final ideas about this couple of scenarios that we have going
a
on?
part of me is thinking is, here's the thing though, is I think that we gotta pay attention to what the different banks are doing and what the different businesses are doing, because right now, for example, there could be a company that's an American company in China, right, that's going to operate different than that same company in America. But then same thing vice versa. If there's a Chinese company that's in America, it may be operating differently versus if that same company was in China. So then I think sometimes the lines will get blurred, because now it's like you're talking about China, but it's not necessarily just in China. It could be something that's happening here because it's being controlled. Same way how, like, right now we're talking about Colombia, they got issues with what's going, but that's not in China. So it's like it's a little deeper sometimes than people think of. All right, somebody might just say, all right, well, I'm not going to China, but it's bigger than that. No, it could be where now you're supporting a company that's ran by the same entities. Then now it's different as far as how it's going to work versus if that same company was controlled by a different entity. So I'm just thinking about it, that it's not as simple as, all right, let me just not do business with in China, like physically going there.
Correct.
It could be a little bit bigger than that. But yeah, so it's a little crazy.
What comes to my mind is what happened back in my country.
Yeah.
And at some point, and I still think that same thing is the case. If you have money in Venezuela, you only had access to take X amount of money a month. And so it was, by the way, it was like $800 or something like that per person. It was something ridiculous like that. So it didn't matter how much money you had.
Yeah.
You had over there. You could only take out X amount. I know that was for people that were like citizens of Venezuela and stuff like that. I don't know how it worked for investors. Now this makes me curious to say, okay, how was that handled over there? But what I know is that was around the time where my country was aggressively deteriorating financially. And so, for me, that's a red flag, and saying if China's restricting the amount of money that you're able to pull out, I don't know what they do with their citizens, but if they're doing it with somebody that is an investor over there that's bringing value to it, that's a little scary as it happening. And I don't know, makes sense that they're expanding out, doing business outside.
I will tell you, there's two concepts that come to mind that Milton Friedman was talking about. One of them is, he's saying even if a country loses the ability to produce, why will you lose the ability to produce? Well, many factors. One of them, which is something that we experience as a country, is the cost of labor. And when a country achieves a certain level of wealth, the cost. By the way, China is no longer the cheapest place to produce, to get labor for. So now they're going to be running that scenario where if you're not the cheapest, then who is, right? Is it India? Is it
Pakistan.
can I go to the Philippines? Can I go to Can I go to Pakistan? Can I go to Mexico? Believe it or not, Mexico right now has become just as competitive in terms of, so why would we want to do business with China if it's the same cost? But this is a little bit of a moving target. What his argument was is even if you lose the ability to produce, what a country cannot lose is the ability to consume, the ability to purchase. If you lose your purchase power, if you lose your capital capability, the ability to be, that is really what has the capability to destroy the economy of the country, right?
It's like a business losing cash flow.
Correct, right, and so his overall point, and I'm oversimplifying, obviously, is like, don't be so concerned about losing your production place because labor costs or material costs or some of the things when different. Be concerned, but the country is no longer capable to. And one of the things can get to a point of a country not being capable to be a powerful country when it comes to consuming is when you lose capital because you no longer trust it to what you're going to do with the money.
Right.
And I go back to the same position about people still, regardless of what's going on here, Trump, Biden, the stock market is going up, the housing market is going down, that they still will bring money. By the way, there's an announcement of another 20% drop already. The housing market already dropped like 18, 19%. Don't want to go into that. Just want to tell everybody, be careful. This is not looking pretty. Yeah. The announcement is at least another 20% drop. And the key word there is another, right? Like meaning the market already lost, you know what I mean? So just keep an eye on that. So that's one concept. The second thing is that also takes me to another statement that he makes about good immigration and bad immigration, right? I mean, that's one of the topics that we cover here. And when you're still thinking about what's going on globally, right? You know, he said people vote with their movement. People vote with their feet. He said, if Cuba was that great, and said, you'll have boats going from here to Cuba, opposed to from Cuba to here, right? If Venezuela was that great, if Honduras was that great, and you can go down the list. So people constantly vote. They let you know. Makes sense. That makes so much sense. And then obviously the final.
That was Milton Friedman.
Yeah, the final description is what he calls good immigration and bad immigration. What makes an immigration or bad immigration? Guys, we just witnessed that happening out of New York. A bad immigration is the immigration that will actually go into a welfare state, that will cost the state money, that doesn't come with the desire to be part of the production, you know what I mean? Again, financial system, they're not incorporating into anything. That's bad immigration. We just witnessed that in New York. I'm coming here, you're flying me somewhere, taking me to a bus, you're giving me housing, I'm not coming here. My whole idea that I was coming to work is gone, right? Good immigration is coming to participate, labor force, small entrepreneur, just going out there and incorporating yourself throughout the whole process. That's phenomenal immigration. By the way, we need immigration in this country.
100%.
We need immigration in this country because if the birth rate is going to continue to decline here also, just like it's happening everywhere else, then there's only one way to replace it, and that's having more people. We still happen to be an attractive place to come to. I think that brings us full circle about some of these conversations. For me, I'm asking everybody just to, be mindful about the fact that these things will be affecting us, whether it is some of the social issues that are so one-sided when it comes to the media. You have to come to places either like us or there's many other people that will try to keep it as objective as possible. You know what I mean? There's good things and bad things about everything. Yeah. But make no mistake about it. Creating a condition where crime is going to run rampant, that's not a good idea. It's not good for business. It's not good for people. And then everything else that's taking place connected with China, we got to pay attention. We should be very concerned. Keep an eye on what's going on. If you own a house, with the housing market, and let's support great immigration so that we have some good people coming to us. Anyway, guys, great to see you. Phenomenal conversation. I appreciate it very much.
Appreciate
Till
it.
the next one and see what we have going on out there. But for everybody, if any of this information has been helpful to you, pass it around. You know what I mean? Make sure that you share the videos with people. get them to subscribe. We want to make sure that we can build this channel to
Comment.
Comment
subscribe.
below.
By the way, we're 9 away. As of today, we're 9 away from 200. I'm excited.
From
200 subscribers.
From 200
Oh.
subscribers.
Yeah, very close.
We'll have episode 10.
It's 200 subscribers away. So share it with somebody and
Yes.
click the little subscribe button
That's
in the
it.
little notification thing.
We
Yeah.
definitely,
People
absolutely.
vote with their click. with the,
Yeah. Talking about
Yeah,
right.
I'm
Oh,
telling
yes,
you.
yes.
That's how you vote.
So yeah, we're gonna look back at this one. And it's like, what?
By the time you get out of here, I'm gonna be like, give me your ballot.
Yeah. Anyway, guys,
Yep.
till the next one.
Deuces.
Thank you. Take it
Bye.
easy. Bye.